In the boundless heavens of Tusita, where the winds hum the first notes of creation, there stands a loom, a radiant artifact spun from the echoes of existence itself. Its warp is woven from threads of unity, awareness, and potential. It's weft from the delicate strands of individuality, interconnection, and transformation. Each thread shimmers with the possibility of becoming a luminous chord in the infinite symphony of life. Yet the tapestry is not flawless. Among the radiant patterns, darker knots appear, echoes of fear, division, and untended wounds. These too hold their place in the fabric, waiting for hands skilled enough to transform discord into harmony. Amrita, weaver of stars, stood before her loom. Her fingers hesitated over the threads as though the celestial winds themselves urged her pause. "What am I weaving?" she whispered, her voice mingling with the sigh of the cosmic breeze. Around her, starlight dimmed, and the loom's threads quivered in sympathetic uncertainty. Far below, the mortal world spun, a tapestry of its own, a dance of laughter and sorrow, unity and division. Amrita felt their yearning, countless lives reaching for connection, yet trapped in tangled knots of isolation. Her heart ached with questions. Was her weaving a reflection of their struggles, or were their lives shaped by the patterns her loom created? The infinite loop of cause and effect blurred, leaving her in doubt. Rising from her seat of silvered moonwood, Amrita resolved to seek the wisdom of Maitreya, the Buddha of loving kindness. For if the threads of existence sang in discord, she needed to hear the song's origin and its remedy. Amrita followed the skyward path, her steps etching trails of starlight into the vast expanse. Above her, constellations shifted, whispering their silent truths. Every star shines, yet none alone. In their dance, the cosmos is known. She arrived at the lotus grove, a sacred realm where golden blossoms hung like lanterns of compassion, each petal trembling with the wisdom of ages. In its heart stood the lotus mirror, a pool that reflected not just the outer world, but the inner workings of existence itself. Maitreya sat beneath the eternal canopy, his form aglow with a light that seemed to emanate from within. Around him, the air shimmered with triadic harmony, creation, destruction, and renewal intertwined like the strands of a braid. "What burdens you, weaver of stars?" Maitreya asked, his voice a melody that resonated in the chambers of her soul. Amrita knelt before the mirror, her reflection rippling with unspoken anguish. "The tapestry falters," she said. "The threads once vibrant, now dim, their patterns unraveling. Unity gives way to fracture and light to shadow. I fear I have lost the rhythm of the weave." Maitreya gestured toward the lotus mirror, its surface stirring as though the cosmos itself breathed within it. 3 visions began to bloom, their images unfurling like petals kissed by the sun. A river, winding its way through a valley of timeless beauty. Beside it, a stone, immovable yet yielding to the water's touch. Above, a tree, its branches sheltering the river's flow. A field where a farmer knelt before a seedling. His gaze shaped the land, nurturing or wounding it with every thought. A spark, falling into darkness. It became a flame, then many flames, until the void blazed with starlight. "These," Maitreya said, "are the triads that guide all creation. The river, the stone, and the tree, the observer's gaze, and the flame of infinite potential. Each reveals a truth essential to your weaving. To mend the tapestry, you must learn their lessons." Amrita's heart quivered as the mirror deepened its glow. The visions called to her, their wisdom waiting to be unraveled. Amrita stepped into the mirror's reflection, her surroundings dissolving into a living vision. She found herself beside a great river, its waters shimmering with whispers of first rains and distant seas. The current sang in an ancient tongue, its song neither hurried nor idle, a cadence of timeless flow. As she walked along the riverbank, her path was illuminated by the soft glow of moonlight filtering through a canopy of leaves. Here she encountered 3 figures, each bound to the river's story and its triadic truths. The first figure emerged from the river itself, a being of flowing water, its form translucent, yet ever-changing. The pilgrim stood at the edge of the current, gazing at the horizon, as though seeing a path known only to it. "Why do you pause, traveler?" Amrita asked. The pilgrim turned, its voice a cascade of gentle ripples. "I follow the river's course," it said, "for it knows no end and no beginning. In its flow I am carried forward, yet it shapes itself around me." Amrita watched as the pilgrim cupped the water in its hands. "To move is to be alive," it continued, "yet to move with purpose is to honor the river's song." From the current rose a verse, sung in liquid tones. "The river flows both steady and free, its course unbroken by what it may see. To drift in its waters is life's sacred chance, yet purpose is born in the river's dance." The pilgrim bowed and vanished into the flow, leaving Amrita to ponder the lesson. To flow is to embrace change, but with purpose the journey becomes meaning. Amrita continued her journey and soon came upon a weathered hermit seated on a stone jutting from the riverbank. The hermit's presence was as still as the stone beneath him, yet his gaze carried the weight of ages. "Do you not grow weary, standing unmoved in the flow?" she asked. The hermit smiled faintly, his voice deep and steady as the earth. "To be still is not to resist, weaver. It is to bear witness, to hold firm while the world flows around you." He traced his hand over the stone's surface, revealing grooves carved by centuries of water. "The stone shapes the river's path," he said, "but it too is shaped in return. Strength lies not in unyielding resistance, but in enduring grace." The stone seemed to hum, and the hermit recited, "The stone endures, though waters may wear, its heart remains steady, yet soft with care. Strength is not stubborn, it bends to its fate, for grace is the power to stand and relate." As the hermit fell silent, Amrita placed her hand on the stone and felt its quiet resolve. To be still is not to resist, but to ground oneself in the eternal rhythm. Further along, Amrita entered a grove, where a towering tree stretched its arms toward the heavens. Beneath its shade stood a farmer, his hands rough from years of toil. He gazed upward, his eyes filled with reverence. "Does the tree not tire of giving so much?" she asked. The farmer chuckled, his voice warm as sunlight. "The tree gives because it is rooted. Its strength comes from the soil, its reach from the sky. It drinks deeply of the river below and offers its branches to the light above." He plucked a single leaf from the tree, holding it gently. "It bends with the wind and shelters all who seek its shade. What it receives, it shares tenfold." The tree rustled its approval, and the farmer spoke. "The tree that bends is the tree that grows, its roots in the earth, its strength bestows. It shelters the weary, its fruit a gift, for in giving, its spirit will ever uplift." Amrita closed her eyes beneath the tree's canopy, its wisdom taking root in her heart. To give is to grow, and to grow is to connect. As Amrita stepped back from the grove, the three figures appeared before her once more, fluid pilgrim, steadfast hermit, and rooted farmer. Together they spoke as one. To flow is to embrace, to still is to endure, to root is to shelter, the triad secure. Each thread is vital, their fates interlace, for life is a dance of strength, change, and grace. Amrita bowed, the lesson clear. She reached into the river and drew forth a single thread, shimmering with the essence of the triad. "I will weave this wisdom into the tapestry," she vowed. "The river's flow, the stone's stillness, and the tree's shelter will guide my hands." The vision of the triad, the river, the stone, and the tree, faded into soft, golden light. Amrita stood at the riverbank, her heart heavy with the weight of what she had learned. Each element of the triad carried its own wisdom, the river's flow, the stone's stillness, the tree's shelter. Yet a question lingered in her mind like the faint echo of the river's song. How does one carry such truths into the act of weaving? A voice drifted on the air, low and resonant, as though the earth itself spoke. To weave is to witness, weaver, but the threads of witnessing begin in the field where life is sown. Amrita turned to see the pilgrim, the hermit, and the farmer standing together at the river's edge. They gestured toward a path winding through the trees where the golden light deepened into hues of green and brown. "Follow the path," the farmer said, his voice steady as the roots beneath his feet. "In the fields of the earth you will find your next guide." Amrita bowed to the triad and stepped onto the path. With each step, the world around her began to shift. The cool air of the grove gave way to the warmth of sunlit fields. The murmur of the river faded into the rustle of tall grasses, and the scent of blossoms was replaced by the earthy aroma of tilled soil. When she emerged, she stood in a vast field stretching toward the horizon where the sky met the earth in a shimmering embrace. The field teemed with life, the hum of insects, the rustle of creatures unseen, and the rhythmic sounds of labor. Amrita felt the pulse of creation beneath her feet, a heartbeat shared by all who dwelled there. She looked ahead and saw the farmer, the same one she had met at the grove, bending low over a young plant. Around him, the creatures of the field moved with purpose, their lives intertwined with the land and its caretaker. Thus began her next journey, to learn from those who walked, crawled, and flew upon the earth, their truths embedded in the soil itself. Amrita approached the farmer, who knelt beside a newly sprouted plant. His hands moved with care, loosening the soil around the tender roots. Nearby, a scarecrow stood watch over the field, its outstretched arms welcoming the creatures that lived among the crops. "Every seed is a promise," the farmer said without looking up. "But promises are kept only by those who choose to see them fulfilled. To watch over the field is to hold the power of creation and destruction in your gaze." Amrita tilted her head. "To watch is to create?" The farmer smiled, his eyes glinting with wisdom. "Go and ask the ones who make their homes here. They will show you what it means to see." Amrita crouched by the roots of a nearby plant, where a line of ants marched in orderly procession. One ant, burdened by a seed, paused and turned its glistening head toward her. "Why do you labor so tirelessly, little one?" she asked. The ant's voice was faint but clear, its tone matter-of-fact. "Because I see what can be, not only what is. This seed is heavy now, but it will feed the colony when the rains come." Amrita watched as the ant continued on its path, its tiny legs moving with unwavering purpose. Over its shoulder it called back to her, "The world is vast, yet small eyes perceive. A future unseen, a life we believe. To carry the seed is to see its might, to labor in dark for the promise of light." The ants vanished into the earth, and Amrita whispered their truth. Vision sees not only what is, but what may be. Further down the field, Amrita came upon a rabbit perched on a stone, its eyes wide as it scanned the horizon. Its ears twitched, catching every sound, yet it remained still as a shadow. "Do you see danger, watcher of the field?" she asked. The rabbit did not look at her, but answered nonetheless. "I see what is and what may come. To see is to protect, but also to fear. The question is, will you run, or will you face what you see?" Amrita stepped closer, her voice soft. "What gives you the courage to stay?" The rabbit turned to meet her gaze, its dark eyes reflecting her own. "The courage to see is born of love for what is worth protecting. Without it, sight becomes a prison." The rabbit's voice became a whisper as it recited, "To see with fear is to bind the heart, a narrow cage that keeps us apart. But love will grant the watcher's reprieve, a courage to stay and truly believe." The rabbit leapt into the tall grass, leaving Amrita with the realization: to observe with courage is to transform fear into love. At the edge of the field, a crow perched atop the scarecrow's arm. Its black feathers shimmered in the light, catching hues of blue and green. Amrita approached cautiously. "What do you see from such heights?" the crow cawed, its voice sharp as the wind. "I see all that lies below and all that lies within. The field is a mirror, weaver, and the gaze of the watcher shapes its reflection." It spread its wings, casting a shadow over the earth. "What you see is what you call forth. Gaze with dread and the field will wither. Gaze with wonder and it will bloom." The crow sang in a voice both harsh and melodic. "The world reflects the gaze you bring, a mirror of thoughts that take to wing. To see with love is to call forth light, but fear will shroud the brightest sight." Amrita watched as the crow soared into the sky, its shadow vanishing into the sunlight. Perception is creation. What we see shapes what we become. Returning to the farmer, Amrita recounted what she had learned from the creatures of the field. "The ant showed me purpose, the rabbit taught me courage, and the crow revealed the power of perception," she said. "Together they are the triad of creation." The farmer nodded, plucking a golden fruit from the tree. "To see is to shape, weaver. What you choose to behold will grow in your loom. Remember this triad as you return to your work." He handed her the fruit, its skin warm and luminous, and recited, "To labor, to face, to perceive with care, is to weave a world both bright and fair. The threads you see will answer your call, so see with love and embrace them all." Amrita bowed and took the fruit, her heart filled with the field's truths. As the vision faded, the threads of her loom began to glow with a newfound light. As Amrita stood at the edge of the field, the horizon softened into hues of twilight. The golden light that had bathed the crops began to fade, replaced by the deep indigo of approaching night. The field grew quiet, its rhythms slowing as the creatures sought rest. The farmer stepped beside her, gazing at the dimming sky. "The day ends, but the work continues," he said. "The light may fade, but the stars will guide those who dare to seek them." Amrita turned to him, the fruit still warm in her hands. "And where does the work lead when the path disappears into darkness?" The farmer's smile was faint, like the first glimmer of a star. "Into the void where all potential lies waiting. Look beyond the field, weaver, and you will find the threads of the infinite." As the last traces of sunlight dissolved, the field melted into shadow, and the horizon stretched into endless darkness. Amrita stepped forward, her breath steady as she walked into the deepening void. Nightfall in Tusita heaven was unlike any night below. Here the darkness did not merely obscure, it revealed. The stars above seemed to birth themselves from the void, their light pulsing like the first breaths of newborn souls. Amrita stood at the threshold of the unknown, where the boundary between light and shadow blurred into nothingness. As she walked, her steps echoed softly, as though the void itself had form. The warmth of the fruit in her hand was her only guide, its glow faint but steady. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in feathers of silver and black, its wings spreading wide as it landed softly before her. It was an owl-like diva, its luminous eyes reflecting galaxies. "What brings you to the edges of the known, weaver?" the diva asked, its voice low and resonant. "I seek the threads of potential," Amrita replied. "But how does one find what has not yet become?" The owl diva tilted its head, considering her words. "The void is not empty. It is filled with possibility. To find it, you must listen to what is not yet spoken and see what is not yet formed." With a sweep of its wing, the deva conjured a single spark that floated in the air before her. "This is the seed of all things, small yet infinite. What will you make of it, weaver?" The spark flickered as the diva sang. "A spark may seem fleeting, a wisp in the air, yet it holds the cosmos, its burden to bear. The void is its cradle, the light is its flame, and endless creation is born of its name." The spark faded, but its warmth lingered in Amrita's chest. She whispered, "Infinite potential lies in the unseen." As she walked deeper into the void, Amrita encountered another deva, a moth-like being whose wings shimmered with iridescent patterns. It fluttered around her, drawn to the faint glow of the fruit in her hands. "What do you seek, wanderer of the void?" Amrita asked. The moth deva's voice was soft, a whisper carried on the void's breath. "I seek the light, always the light, yet it is not the finding that matters, but the seeking. To reach for what lies beyond is to honor the infinite within." The moth circled her, its wings brushing against her arm as it spoke in verse. "The flame calls the moth with its radiant song, yet the journey itself is where seekers belong. To reach is to grow is to dream, and through endless seeking all truths redeem." The deva fluttered away, its form dissolving into the stars. Amrita held the fruit close, its glow now brighter. To seek is to ignite the potential within. The void deepened, and Amrita found herself standing beneath a sky brimming with constellations. A figure formed from starlight descended before her, its body shifting and glimmering like the heavens themselves. "I am the keeper of constellations," the star diva said, its voice a chorus of celestial harmonies. "Each star is born from a spark, each constellation a tapestry of countless lights. Together they shape the infinite sky." The star diva extended its hand, revealing a single glowing ember. "To share your light is to kindle others. In unity the sparks become eternal." It gestured to the stars above, and a verse echoed in the void. "A spark, though lone, can birth the skies, a light that grows, a truth that flies. In giving it kindles, in joining it thrives. Together we weave where eternity lies." The ember floated into Amrita's hands, merging with the glow of the fruit. She whispered, "To share is to create eternity." The void cradled Amrita like the softest cocoon, its silence vast yet humming with unspoken truths. The warmth of the fruit in her hands, once her guide, began to fade as her eyelids grew heavy. Her steps slowed, and the weight of infinite potential pressed gently upon her, urging her to rest. Beneath her, the formless darkness shifted, cradling her as she sank into a sleep that was not sleep, but something deeper, a surrender to the currents of the unseen. The void carried her like a mother bearing her child, and as her consciousness unraveled, she whispered her last coherent thought, "What am I but a thread in the tapestry?" She murmured aloud as she sank to her knee. The void cradled softly, its silence profound, a weightless cocoon where no edges were found. Her eyelids grew heavy, the fruit dimmed its glow, its warmth but a whisper of truths yet to show. The darkness enfolded, the stars turned their gaze, and Amrita fell through the infinite haze. She opened her eyes to a place strange yet near, a loom vast as cosmos, both shifting and clear. Its threads were of color no tongue could describe, each glowing with stories no voice dared transcribe. The patterns were swirling, alive in their song, their rhythm eternal, their moments both long, and as she stepped closer, her form came undone. Each thread pulled her essence till she was but one. Her hands turned to fibers, her breath to a thread, her thoughts to the weave where all dreamers are led. Her memories scattered like stars in the night, her name but a whisper dissolved in the light. No longer a body, no longer a mind, she flowed with the loom where all fates are entwined. A voice from the silence, both hers and yet not, spoke truths of the self that the void had forgot. I am the spark, and the needles glide, the pattern unseen and the path inside. I am the hand and the fabric's call, the weaver, the woven, the threads of us all. I am the river that flows without end, the stone that is carved, the roots that will bend. I am the tree that drinks deep of the stream, the shelter of love and the light in the dream. I am the void where all worlds arise, the flame that ignites, the stars in their skies. In losing my name, I am all that remains, the dance of the cosmos, unbound by its chains. The loom then expanded, its patterns laid bare, revealing all lives interwoven with care. She saw in its weaving the ant and its quest, the courage of rabbit, the crow's lofty rest, the river's soft murmur, the stone's steady ground, the tree's gentle shade where all wisdom is found. Each thread in the fabric was vital yet small, and only together they flourished at all. To weave is to vanish, to fade into light, to lose what you were in the cosmic night. The self is a thread that is bound to the whole, its meaning discovered in union of soul. The loom sings of unity, love and release, of breaking apart to create greater peace. Its threads are of courage, of seeking, of grace, each life but a moment in infinite space. The threads of her being began to return, rewoven by truths her soul had to learn. The loom dimmed its shimmer, its patterns grew still, and Amrita awoke with a gasp and a thrill. Amrita awoke beneath the golden canopy of the lotus grove, her breath steady as the soft hum of creation filled the air. Above her, blossoms swayed in rhythms too subtle for mortal eyes to see, their golden petals catching the first light of dawn. She sat up slowly, the weight of the void still lingering in her chest. Her hands, once trembling from her journey, now rested calmly on her knees. In the stillness, a familiar voice rose, its cadence like the steady flow of a river meeting the sea. Maitreya stood nearby, his gaze turned not to her but to the horizon, where the night yielded to day. His words spoke to the vastness surrounding them, as if the heavens themselves were the audience for his song. Maitreya's voice rang clear, each word a thread woven into the morning's light. What is a thread, unraveled and bare, but the whisper of truth the void lays bare? To lose the self is to find the whole, the cosmos revealed in a single soul. Amrita rose to her feet, her thoughts quiet but vast, her gaze drawn to the blossoms that trembled on the breeze. She extended her hand, catching a single petal as it fell. Turning it over in her palm, she spoke softly, her voice carrying its own verse. The self is a shadow, the self is a flame, both fleeting and still, yet never the same. In its surrender, the pattern is shown, the thread is not lost, it has always been home. They walked together, their steps unhurried, weaving paths through the grove. Around them, the golden light deepened, and the blossoms shimmered as if in response to their words. Maitreya lifted a fallen blossom, its fragile form cradled in his palm. He sang, his voice resonating with the rhythm of the cosmos. Each thread is a whisper, a seed, a flame. Each weaves a pattern, no two the same. Together they sing in a fabric of light, the song of the stars in the still of the night. Amrita's fingers brushed the threads of her own hair, now faintly glimmering with the light of the loom she had walked in dreams. She raised her voice, each word an offering to the unseen. The loom is eternal, the weaver unknown. Each thread a reflection, yet not its own. The pattern is vast, yet born of the small, the infinite shaped by the fate of us all. The sky above began to shift, hues of gold blending into violet and crimson. The scent of blossoms mingled with the soft warmth of dawn, and Amrita felt the echo of the void stir within her. She paused, turning her face to the sky. Her voice rose, clear and unbroken, her hands open to the light. The spark is eternal, a gift passed through flame. It brightens the void, it calls forth the name. To share is to kindle, to give is to grow, for love is the fire that all beings know. Maitreya extended his hands, palms upward, as though offering his voice to the heavens. His words wove through hers like a harmony. No flame diminishes when shared in the night. Each spark calls another to shine with its light. In giving we thrive, in joining we rise, a dawn of new stars in the infinite skies. The blossoms around them swayed as if carried by an unseen breath. Maitreya turned to the horizon, where the light now bathed the grove in gold. He spoke once more, his voice resonating like a bell struck at the heart of the world. To weave is to vanish, to lose and to find, to fade into light, to be wholly aligned. The self is a thread, the loom is the whole, the weaver awakens as one with the soul. Amrita knelt to the earth, placing the blossom she carried back among its roots. Her voice rose for the final time, her song an echo of her journey. Each thread is a story, each thread is a flame, each life is the cosmos, though nameless in name. In love we are woven, in light we arise, a pattern eternal, the truth in disguise. Together, their voices faded into the morning, and the grove fell silent once more. Amrita stood, her hands steady and her heart alight. She turned to Maitreya, his gaze serene as ever, though his words no longer came. The work of the loom awaited her, but she now understood. Her hands were not alone. The threads themselves would guide her, their light revealing the way. As she walked toward the loom, she felt the hum of the cosmos within her, the pulse of infinite possibility. The universe itself whispered to her, "The tapestry is endless, the light ever near. To weave is to wonder, to love and to hear. Each thread is a question, an answer, a call, and together we weave the one truth of it all."